Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic we finished up The Invasion. Dad, you enjoyed the end of The Invasion, do you suddenly not?
Well, no, it's... again, we do these so differently. I'm remembering watching something else because I don't get it as everybody else. Anyway, it turns out that it is, of course, the Cybermen.
Yep.
And Vaughn thinks that he can control them, but he loses control.
Right.
But he develops a machine to drive them crazy, and...
Yep. There's a whole thing with missiles and bombs.
And Zoe manages to figure out the targeting for them faster than their computers can do it, which was kind of nice. We were talking about how nice it was to see a companion that was actually useful for a change. Female companion.
Yeah.
And in the end... I don't remember exactly what happened in the last episode, other than they were able to defeat the Cybermen.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So, well, there was something about the Cyber Megatron bomb. And right. I know they hit the ship. I don't remember if they dropped the bomb and then they beat them or not, or...
I honestly don't remember.
I seem to also remember, like, it was sort of a rushed finale. Like, it was like, oh, we're about to hit it. We hit it. Cut. Next. All right, well, now that that's over.
Yeah, it did seem somewhat edited.
Yeah, so something like that. But overall, now, in our recap of the last episode, yes, we do still enjoy it.
Yes.
However, if we said otherwise, we would not want you to take that as our true thoughts on it.
Yeah, I understand some of our fans have been giving Alex grief on Twitter.
Yes.
I'm not on Twitter or Instagram or things like that. So you can always direct the comments to me here on... what do we do this on? YouTube.
Yeah, that's it.
Been a long morning.
Yeah.
Got out and mowed the lawn early this morning. Yeah, guys, seriously, I mean, we're just a couple of guys from the middle part of the United States sitting here watching a 60-year-old program and having some fun with it, so.
Yeah. So, remember, if you have any complaints, forward it all to him, because clearly I never say anything that would warrant complaints. So, but no. All kidding aside, it's fine. It's totally fine, and I'm used to anything I get on Twitter. I mean, I'm the idiot who keeps sharing his opinion about modern Doctor Who episodes on Twitter. That never goes over well. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I can't just talk about Doctor Who on Twitter anymore. And then I did it again. I brought up the Timeless Children because I finally caught up through all of modern Doctor Who. And I was like, oh, yeah, here's an interesting thought I had about the Timeless Children. About 70 replies later, it finally calmed down. But that was not worth it. Definitely.
Well, Alex's mom, my wife, said that I should probably get on Twitter as 7th Hour Dad. And so you could direct all that to me. Yeah. But again, I'm not on... I'm on Facebook. That's pretty much it.
Right. So, which I recommend don't get on Twitter. If I had the choice, I wouldn't be on Twitter. It's just that it is unfortunately the best place. Twitter is the best way you can describe Twitter is it's the worst social media platform, except for all the others. So
didn't Winston Churchill say that?
Something like that, yeah. Anywho, today we're on to the Krotons.
It sounds like something you put on your salad. No, those are croutons, aren't they? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is the only other 4-parter in the entirety of Troughton's run, other than Tomb of the Cybermen and I think the Highlanders. Everything else is more than 4 parts for the Second Doctor, which is interesting. This is a 100% complete episode.
Yay!
And I guess that's just sort of that. We're just going to run through all 4 episodes in this and just have a nice self-contained video.
Not have to remember from week to week what we saw.
Yeah. Which is probably also good because I'm pretty sure the last 3 videos we've done have run over an hour in length.
Oof.
So maybe this one will be a bit more calm, you know? So, yes. And with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and start on the Krotons. Here we go.
Oh, just Doctor Who theme?
Yeah.
We've been having some fun with some of the subtitles.
Well, the guy from last episode finally got a week of sleep, so he's no longer sassy about the subtitles. Smooth. Very smooth.
The second name is female. Varnagon.
Oh, so it's the Hunger Games.
No!
Only a lot happier.
Bad eggs. Let's try somewhere else.
No, wait a minute. Where are we?
Oh, she has an actual outfit this time.
But let's explore, shall we? Your umbrella. Yes, twin sons. It's bound to be hot.
I don't think I like it here.
Oh no, it's Tatooine.
Dead.
Oh, it smells dead.
Some kind of sulfuric acid.
I guess.
Disarm him! Keep back!
Oh yeah, go inside. That's a good idea.
No.
I hope they're friendly.
Just leave this to me, Zoe.
Just go over and say hi.
This has vague underpinnings of the Aztec blood sacrifice.
Well,
I accept your challenge.
You do you? Yeah, well, that's just fine with me then.
Now, Jamie, don't
now you have to deal with the
Don't worry,
Piper.
Doctor, I'll see to this, ladies. No, I'll not be needing that, thank you.
Oh, Jamie, watch out!
He hasn't really had a good fight for a while.
Give him a knee, Jamie.
Oh, come on, stop.
Use your head.
Oh, Jamie, come on!
Like arm wrestling.
Well,
Thought Jamie winning would stop that.
I don't
What's
know.
happening? It's against the law of the Krotons! I'm going with them. Thara, come back! If they can go into the wasteland, I can! Thara! You'll die!
So I'm getting a bit of a mix of the rescue and
You keep away, Zoe. Keep right away.
what's the other one I'm trying to think of?
Well, Mr. Yes, well, you can find some more stones like this. Well, if you
Oh,
want
the
to-
Dominators. That's it. The one guy that speaks out.
Oh, yeah.
What have they done to her?
Oh, that's why he had the umbrella.
Vandals, look at
Is there anything you can do?
Not a doctor of medicine, you know, Zoe. However, if there's no damage to the tissue...
Not a doctor of medicine? I thought he was.
Take her.
My father's house is quite near
Eh.
to the community.
Well, let's take her there.
Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. But he said he got a medical degree in the 1800s.
It's almost impossible to believe. The Krotons have always been our good friends, our benefactors.
Wow. It's episode 1. We've already upended their society.
Don't usually see him with his shirt off. Or his coat off.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him with his shirt off.
Eh.
According to our legends, silver men came out of the sky, built a house among us.
Silver men, huh? Interesting. It's a little too soon, I think.
Yeah. But Silvermen could be just, astronauts.
Yeah.
Most of the astronauts of the 60s wore those silver spacesuits.
Well.
Come on!
This is gonna take them a while. Well.
I think something's coming out now.
That's the thing at Jabba's palace.
It's also very similar to War of the Worlds.
Keep
Wow.
well clear.
Seemed rather short.
Well. Alright. That's part 1.
All right, so your conjecture is the Silvermen are, once again, the Cybermen.
Well, at first. I don't think it is now. I think it will be separate. It will be something else. But just because they said it that way, it makes you think, you know?
But it obviously knows who the Doctor is. Or thinks it knows who the Doctor is.
Perhaps. At the very least, it's taking an interest in the Doctor.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting one, definitely. I mean, just the fact that was one episode, and we've, like I said, we've already upended this entire society, This feels like it's going to be a nice, concise 4 episodes. Yeah. So, which is good. We haven't had that in a long time.
All right, so basics, they live underground. They have done so for thousands of years because these Silvermen came down from the sky. Essentially, there was a very short-lived war where the men from space essentially turned the planet into a wasteland. And for some reason, although it doesn't seem to... I mean, it's not like they're slaves. We don't know exactly what the Gonds do for these aliens. But they've been kept underground and they've been taught. But we're not exactly sure what they've been taught. So
yeah. It kind of reminds me of... what... Enemy of the World, I think, with Salamander and the people underground and stuff like that. Of course, he was using them specifically to cause the weather phenomena.
This, to me, sounds a little bit more like that one where I always call him Peter Purvis.
Stephen,
where he was left behind, the Savages.
Yeah,
because you had these two groups fighting against each other. One that was a technological society and the other that was somewhat of a more primitive society.
Yeah. It honestly, it does feel a bit more First Doctor than we're used to. Because I'm also thinking of the rescue when we first got Vicky, where it's it's just kind of her and this other guy, and then he goes and dresses up as, the alien to keep them there, and then they end up defeating him. I think the First Doctor had a little fight with him too. So, it kind of reminds me of that as well. So
that did seem like a very short episode, though.
No, that's a standard episode.
Huh.
Standard length. So
well, it moved very quickly then.
Yeah. The quality on these episodes seems a little bit lesser than what we've normally gotten.
Yeah.
Whatever else they are, these Krotons are certainly not friendly. Now we know that, don't we?
Yes, of course.
They use these machines to plant impressions on the mind. That's how they've enslaved these people all these years.
Doctor!
What?
Look at the dial.
What of it?
It's amazing. Even the best of our students registered less than half that score.
Yes, well, Zoe is something of a genius, of course. It can be very irritating at times.
She's not exactly street smart.
Father!
Living thing.
Well, all life doesn't necessarily have feeling in it. Great jumping gobstoppers, what's that?
The Krotons command. It means there is a message for me.
Oh, what does it say?
I love gobstoppers.
3197 selected female Zogon.
Zogon?
Zoe, can I have that again, please?
Well, they don't give you second shots. We'll press the button again.
This is the most advanced machine. Perhaps it can't answer the questions.
Of course he can. The Doctor's almost as clever as I am.
You see?
Almost.
Yeah. Oh no, what have I done?
Oh, Doctor, you've divided instead of multiplying. You must concentrate.
I am, Zoe, I am!
He's not good with machines, ironically.
Class 3198 selected male Dr. Gon.
Dr. Gond. Idiots!
Taking their intelligence?
Maybe.
Well, that's unflattering.
Wide-angle lens.
Looking up their noses.
Well, what's its purpose?
Life is supposed to have begun on your planet in the sea. Primeval soup, someone once called it. Well, there are lots of sorts of soups, aren't there? I wonder what this sort is.
And what do you suppose these are? They look like astronauts' airlines.
Yes, I think you're right, Zoe.
Zoe, look!
I think you were right about the astronauts then.
Robbie the robot.
They are in the exit shaft. Why? They are conditioned to obey. The conditioning may have failed.
Yeah, these things aren't the smartest.
At last! No! Don't enter! Look, I have this!
I have a stick. I'll be fine. You like wedge it under so you can get out in a hurry.
You can see the Kroton in the background.
Well,
This is not a hybrid. It is a primitive.
poor Jamie.
And the power will kill it.
All right. So they are crystalline, part organic, part machines.
Yes.
Okay.
That seem to be creating life by taking the mental prowess of the students, converting it into energy, putting that into soup, and making a person, I guess.
Okay.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right about the astronaut thing, that they were the originals that came down. So maybe these giant Kroton robots, maybe they're trying to revive their masters, basically. So, could be something like that.
My only problem so far is not enough difference between the two robot voices.
Yeah.
If we didn't have the subtitles, we wouldn't know who was talking.
Yeah, that's true. Despite that, it is a very clear voice.
Yes.
So, it's at least good to hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very well written. We quite haven't figured out where they're going with it yet, but that's always good.
Yeah. It is a little odd that Zoe would try the machine. This machine that very obviously is a conditioning machine that has been working on the Gons for thousands of years, and she's just like, ooh, something smart. I'll go hook myself up into that.
In something rather recently, the doctor said, hey, you wait here, and she went off and did something that she should have known better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that seems to be in her nature to, when she's left alone like that, to do something.
Yeah, that's true. So, I don't know. And I mean, it's not like Jamie's any better, though. I don't know. I mean, I guess because obviously, as we see, Jamie just got himself into trouble there. But I don't know. I guess he gets himself into different trouble, you know? So, I don't know.
And you're right, the quality of this, the visual quality is...
Yeah.
It's darker, it's a little fuzzier.
Yeah. Oof, audio quality's a little rough, too. This must be one that, like, they just barely found, like, 4 tins of it, and they did their best to restore it.
It is still of value. It can give information about the other creatures.
I don't remember one of them having a thick accent.
This isn't the way to the city.
The doctor and the girl scored the highest result ever. The Kroton summoned them. They went into the machine and the boy followed them.
So now they'll be dead, like Abugond. Or mindless, like Varna.
They really should have stopped by, said, hey, we're okay, and then gone to the TARDIS.
On control and proceed.
Another fatal flaw. They waddle like ducks.
Oh, yeah.
There's a casting call for you. We need an actress who, for an hour and a half, will do nothing but sleep.
You get paid by the word.
I was just... Do you want a repetition of the massacre we suffered when the Krotons first came here?
Today we have slings and fireballs. Weapons that will destroy the strongest building to rubble.
Have you ever looked at the
They
wasteland?
don't sound very
Nothing
strong.
grows there even to this day.
How would you like to die without knowing the reason, eh?
Krotons cannot die.
You mean you can't be killed? You live forever.
We function permanently unless we exhaust.
Well, that sounds like dying.
Exhaust?
So is this some weird ray thing?
And I will see if you die or not.
Oh, it's a disbursement canister. I get it now. Well, hit it.
Oh, Doctor, the TARDIS!
Maybe the TARDIS just has some funky defense thing. It just bailed. So,
Vanish like that, didn't you?
Well, it only does that, you see, if I remember to set the hands.
The what?
The hands. The hostile action displacement system. If the TARDIS is attacked, it automatically dematerializes. Now, I think it's safe for us to move.
He didn't have that on when there was lava going.
Well,
Doesn't look much like a root structure.
No. This is also going to take a while.
The gravitation
Oh gosh, they're spinning!
If there was anyone inside that, that would have been excruciatingly funny.
Well, we probably shouldn't be in here if we're going to collapse the whole thing. Oh. Now that one felt a little shorter too.
Well, again, it's very well written. There's no pauses anywhere. I'm kind of glad this is 4 episodes because it's very tight. There's no extraneous stuff. It gives you some clues there with the sulfur as to what the Doctor might be thinking. Sulfur and saltpeter and several other things can be made into gunpowder. Not sure that's what he's going for, but sulfur does burn.
Yeah. Use it against them. So I like the heads, the what was it? Hostile. I don't remember what it was specifically. It was something like hostile action dematerialization something. Yeah. But just a way. It's the only way apparently for the TARDIS to land at the same point in time and space. So why he hasn't used that before, I'm not sure.
But nobody's ever really attacked. Now, Marco Polo stole it, put it on the wagon and carried it all the way to the capital.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone's physically attacked it, have they?
Not too much, I don't think.
And the thing about when you said about why didn't he use that with the lava, because that would have put him right back down in the middle of the lava.
I guess that's true. So.
Farah, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in the hills?
The Farah and I stayed to help Peter make some acid. We were bringing it here for the Doctor. We felt the earthquake.
The Doctor?
Sulfuric acid.
Probably buried down there with the
I don't know if sulfuric acid dissolves crystals or not.
I found him, Zoe! How long will it be? How long will it be? I don't know. It's not gonna explode, is it? I don't know. What? I don't know. Oh, I thought you were
Our last year.
Well, I've never worked with acid before.
My bottle cells.
It's all right. I have it here.
The Doctor needs it. He says it's vital. Come back!
It operates through mental power.
You've discovered a way of using mental power.
And you Krotons haven't enough.
4 high brains are needed in relay. There are only 2 of us.
Then how did you get here?
No more questions.
If you want us to cooperate,
The Dynatrope was part of a battle fleet. 2 of our crew were exhausted by enemy fire.
Oh, Doctor, I want to stand there.
oh my dear. Oh well, you stand there, and I'll stand here. Better still. A much better idea. I'll stand here and you stand
Put on
there.
the headsets or you will be dispersed.
All right. How do you wear these things?
Just stall for time.
Give it time.
But the machine wasn't pure tellurium.
Yeah, well, the acid wasn't pure sulfuric acid, but it worked, didn't it? Come along, let's get away. I don't like flies.
It does seem weird that they mass-produced the acid if you didn't really need it.
There's so much to be done. We'll have to find our own answers now, Peter.
Alrighty. Well, that is the Krotons.
Now, again, I always try to find, is there some kind of historical background for this? And again, this may be going too far, but again, this late 1960s, early 70s was a time of liberation of a lot of colonies, Africa and Southeast Asia and the Pacific, things like that. And again, a lot of times these countries, underdeveloped countries, basically existed as raw materials, as resources for the colonizing countries. And when the European powers pulled out, they were literally left on their own. So, I mean, that's a very basic sort of thing. But again, without being heavy-handed, I think that's what they're trying to do here. They're basically saying, look, you guys have been controlled, in this case, for thousands of years rather than just centuries. And even though the controlling people are more advanced than you are, it's still in your best interest to get rid of the controlling power and learn on your own. That's the the best way for you to evolve and move forward from there. So
yeah, I could see that. Alrighty.
So again, not an incredibly this is not one of their greatest episodes, but thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah,
very watchable. And again, right up until the very last, trying to figure out what exactly they were doing. And like you said, what exactly were they doing with the acid, pouring it into the hole for the foundation? Is that what they were doing there at the end? Maybe.
I guess so, but it begs the question: why did the Doctor have so much of the acid created if he only needed the one bottle?
Yeah,
because the bottle seemed to do enough to destroy the machine. And
it may have been it may just have been a bit of backup in case that didn't work.
Yeah, could have. So yeah, it could have been something like that, and I think this one definitely helps being 4 parts. Like, it's not the greatest story in the world. It's not bad or anything. It's a good story, but it's not one of their best stories. It's a nice little calm story, especially like after the invasion.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice, easy 4-parter.
Yeah.
So yeah, to hop into the notes. Let's see. Well, so we had the whole framing of the people go in and then we never see them again, and then obviously immediately we find out, well, they're put into some sort of weird catatonic state and then they're dispersed basically.
It was very sad that they were literally talking about them as waste material. Once we've taken out their mental energy, I think is what the Doctor called it.
Yeah.
The rest is just waste material, so we're just going to get rid of it.
Yeah. And the fact that it didn't, none of them really worked, because the whole point was that the Doctor and Zoe were so smart that finally they had 2 people, smart enough to get that ship out of there. So for thousands of years, they were just going through all, even though they were the brightest students among the Gonds, they were never smart enough, so they all had to die.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like this strange tragedy of just thousands of years, just kids just dying.
Just
pretty
to
much
maintain the status quo.
Yeah, and who knows how often they're chosen.
Again, this reminds me. Just recently, I was talking with somebody about African colonization, about how Leopold of Belgium literally owned this area in Central Africa, and I was not aware of this. I thought it had been a Belgian colony, but it was literally the king's own private land, and he was ultimately forced to give it up to Belgium. But he was just basically, enslaving hundreds of thousands of people in order to increase his own personal wealth. And it had nothing to do with his country. Of course, later on, his country did some pretty bad stuff as well. But again, that seems to me very much what's happening here is that you cannot assume that just because you're a more advanced civilization that you have the right to take these kind of resources from people who are less fortunate than you are.
Right, and
then just to dispose of them. I mean, that to me is one of the big messages there. That's just cruelty.
Yeah. So it also feels a bit like the Dominators, although just on a, I guess honestly on a much bigger scale, but just because it's been going on for so long.
Yeah.
So, and obviously this culture of people, they've been, I mean, that's just in their DNA that, this is just how the world has worked for thousands of years. They came over, we lost, now they teach us, we have this peace, and they go off behind the door, and we never see, what's behind the curtain.
Yeah. There's again, don't want to be too controversial here, but there's a whole lot of thought on the conservative side of the United States that, why are we complaining so much about slavery? Because after all, the slaves had a much better life in the United States than they ever had in Africa. And I mean, there's all this horrible, just incredible stuff. And they don't seem to understand that we don't have the right to take people, to take away their freedom, even if we say that we're going to give them a greater life here in the United States. It's not, because that's not their life. You are stealing their culture, you're stealing their people, you're just, again, using them as resources and then disposing of them. And that's just wrong. It was always wrong. And I used to tell my world history students, that is the one thing about world history that I cannot understand, is how people thought it was okay for one person to own another person. And it goes, my most egregious example, though, was the ancient Hebrews, who had been in slavery for 400 years under the Egyptians. And as soon as they were freed and got back to the land of Canaan, what did they do? They began taking their own slaves. It's like, how can people who had been slaves ever then make other people their slaves? I've never understood slavery.
Well, and even just kind of on that, like you watch something like the Ten Commandments or something, and it's like, yes, you go through this whole thing of, let my people go, and they're enslaved and everything. Maybe the slight problem with the Ten Commandments, it keeps going for like another half hour or so after that. It's like, we're all free, and then they all just sort of screw up, and they screw up while he's up on the mountain. He comes down, he's like, what are you doing? What did we just have a movie for? Yeah. Throws the thing, goes back up, comes back down. Are you better yet? So that's why Prince of Egypt is better, because it cuts off before that you get to that part of the story. So even then it's
history.
Yeah, well, even then the Prince of Egypt is like 2 hours shorter. Yeah. So
anyway, sorry.
Anywho, but yes. So let's see. I did write down, so the doctor had that line. Was it specifically that I'm not a doctor of medicine?
Yes, he said I'm not a doctor of medicine, Zoe. Okay.
I couldn't tell that, and then the line in the subtitles disappeared before I could really look at it. So that is strange, because he has specifically said that he has a medical degree. It's a bit of an older medical degree, but he is technically a doctor.
A physician, yes.
Yeah.
Doctor of medicine.
Yeah, and later on, and I brought this up before, that I think with the 11th Doctor, there's someone who is like, so you are a medical doctor, right? You're not just a doctor of cheese or something. And he says, yes, I am a medical doctor. I'm also a doctor of cheese, but that's not important right now. So I think they'll joke later, it's like he's a doctor of everything, basically. So...
Well, if you live 900 years or so, there's plenty of opportunity for you to get advanced degrees.
Yeah, so... and plus just the idea that he's probably a doctor of something on Gallifrey. Whatever the Gallifreyan equivalent of the doctorate is, So, I feel he's a doctor of time, at the very least. So, but yeah, that is a strange line that he mentions that, well, I'm not a doctor of medicine, So, let's see... we had the learning machines. I do like that it takes the doctor a little bit to figure out how to answer the questions and stuff. It reminds me that because it is sort of like a test. I remember being in school, tests were always very difficult for me because I don't know, maybe I was under pressure or something. Tests were never. I don't know. I don't want to say like I was smarter than I looked on those tests, but it was always the sort of thing like I could do homework and I could do this and that, but you get to a test and it's like, I don't know, C. What's the next question? What time is it? So it is sort of like that, but it also plays for the Doctor into the invasion when he went up to whatever the machine was at the International Electromatics, and he just got immediately frustrated with it, whereas Zoe can go up to that machine. She realizes, oh, this thing sucks. I'm going to break it using logic, Yeah. So that was funny that he had a bit of a difficult time.
Yeah.
I also like the line Zoe has, whereas, oh well, surely the Doctor can pass this. I mean, he's almost as clever as me. And weirdly, you would normally get that the other way around, where the Doctor would say something like that. So,
well, I'm truly enjoying Zoe as a companion because, again, she has proved to be very functional. Not just both in the last series and in this one. Not just the damsel in distress, but she is able to use what she knows to the advantage of the team. But again, does have this unfortunate curiosity that she gets, involved in things where she shouldn't. But again, that may be a factor in that she is so logical, she doesn't think about the logical consequences of doing something impromptu like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of she doesn't fully understand how the universe works. It's like she has the logic and stuff, but sometimes the universe doesn't run on logic. And yeah, there are moments where she thinks, oh, well, I'll just check out this machine. It'll be fine. I'm smart. I can handle it. Not realizing, oh, wait, maybe this thing will try to, put that conditioning in my head. So, yeah. Let's see. I also like the line where, they select Zoe and the Doctor. So they have, what was it, Zogond? They just assume her name is Gond too, and then eventually Dr. Gond. So that was funny, and obviously he gets offended by that. So, okay.
Now it makes me wonder. I think there is a region somewhere in Africa called Gondwana. I know when we're talking about the Pangea theory, there's like a Laurasia and a Gondwana land, and it's where the two halves of the supercontinent break apart and then become the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere. So, I mean, that's a possibility. Who knows?
Maybe. So we had the whole thing with the mental power, and so originally we were guessing with the whole soup thing, like, oh, well, maybe they're like recreating their masters or something like that, or they even said like, oh, well, we don't die, we exhaust, but we can be reanimated. So maybe it's like, well, they're trying to reanimate it, and that ultimately was not the case. It's just that they had lost two of the Krotons, so they needed two smart enough people in order to get back to their home world, and it's just taken them thousands of years. But that whole thing was interesting, and then using the mental power as just energy. It's definitely a new concept for them. So let's see. We had Elec and the wanting to attack the Krotons. Part of it, I will say, like, he has a point. And then I find it interesting that, was it Selrus, the main leader? He did start to side with them and be like, yes, you're right, we should attack. But then I like that he tried to do his own thing, but it didn't work. It backfired, and so they're like, no, you can't. Not you specifically. Like, it didn't work when you didn't want to attack. It's not working when you do want to attack. You are the problem, so go away. So that was kind of an interesting thing there. Because at first it's like, oh, okay, so Elec, he's getting his slings and his fireballs, which it's unfortunate we never saw what those were, like that could have been like an interesting little thing, but it's like, oh, he's getting his things, like, oh, look how advanced we are. We have slings and fireballs, and it's like, all right, then they've got their dispersal stuff, so you're not going to get very far. But I did like the extra dynamic of yes, we need to attack, but we need to specifically not attack his way, because he's not good enough. Now, whether or not Elik would have been good enough, that's open for debate, but they knew Celeris wasn't good enough. So,
again, that's a very generational sort of thing,
Yeah.
Young people always feel that they know better than older people, and older people always feel they know better than younger people, so.
Yeah. So, well, of course, I do know better than you, obviously. So, I was going to make some dumb example, but I couldn't think of anything. So, anyway, let's see. We also had the whole thing where the Krotons, they can't see. Well, it would probably help if they had eyes, and not just these spinning crystal things.
Now, again, to me, the basic design of the Krotons was interesting. I just since they were not physical in any way, they didn't need to be quite so bulky.
Yeah.
And obviously they didn't have a whole lot of time to make any legs. That's why they had a basic skirt around them so they could shuffle around like that. They did have the pinchers, which unlike the Daleks, we've got the toilet plunger and everything.
Yeah.
So they were functional, but again, with a little more refinement, they could have been, if not necessarily more frightening or anything like that. But again, we're looking at some of the other things that they've done. Every time we see the Cybermen, they seem to have been refined in some way.
Yeah.
But these guys just seem to be a little bit clunky.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it kind of works because they're not supposed to... Well, I mean, they are from this, great battle fleet or something, but it looks like they're supposed to be more... they're more on the controls and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they're not supposed to be, out and about at actually attacking people. So that could work, but it is still pretty bulky. Like, when they have to deal with Jamie, and it's like, all right, now, Frasier, you stay here. They'll pinch you, and you need to act like they're actually breaking your arm. And it's not something you could easily just slap and get out of and run away from. So, I mean, I almost feel like we need to take... like every robot we've seen or every villain we've seen so far and like rank them in terms of like menace and functionality in comparison to like the Daleks and the Cybermen, which I guess those two are sort of our gold standards, even though they sort of have their own problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually in the latest Dalek appearances with the 13th Doctor, they've changed the Dalek design, and very vaguely, because they updated a little bit, make it look a little different, but they've kind of removed the plunger, and it's more of just a sort of cupped hand, and it can sort of extend. It's more fingers that sort of go back into the standard shape.
Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't do much else. Like, they haven't used it where it's like, oh well, now that they don't have the plunger, now they can do something, but they've slightly updated that, but for the most part, like it's still the same design basically with the egg beater and the plunger and stuff. So, but I always liked. You remember the ninth Doctor episode we watched with the Dalek, where it went up to a keypad, just put the plunger up, and then you just see the plunger slightly move a little bit, and it's like, oh well, it's inputting all those codes and stuff. Like, okay, you're trying to make that plunger work as best you can. So, and I think there was the one guy that put the plunger on his face and it just started sucking in the whole person. So they try to make it work. Yeah. Anyway, but the whole thing with the directions was interesting because they can't see properly. That they rely on, although they kind of made it sound like they can't see well in the light. And so they rely more on the sensors and stuff, which was interesting. Again, we had the HADS. I don't fully remember what that stood for. It was some sort of hostile action thing. But again, very interesting. It's the one time that the TARDIS can land in the same place in space and time. Yeah. So otherwise, obviously... the TARDIS will just go off somewhere. The Doctor never knows where. Yeah. I like that, again, going into like more modern Doctor Who and stuff, the Doctor, even though, yes, eventually the Doctor will finally gain control and will be able to put in exactly when and where they want to go in time and space. And I like that even in modern Doctor Who, there will still be moments where it's like, 10 months off. Dang it. I'm 10 months too late because, I don't know, there's a Dalek here. So the TARDIS was like, all right, you're going 10 months later. I don't care if it messes with your companions' lives or your life or whatever. You're going here and you're going to like it. So, anyway. We also had the earthquake thing where, ripping up the foundations, which, again, Elik is right. It didn't really do anything to them. It just got people injured.
And that was kind of a red herring when the Doctor said it looked like a root system. But then they didn't go anywhere with that. I mean, yes, we understand that the Krotons are part of the overall machine, but that, again, did not look like a root system to me. It was just a foundation where, they had landed and gotten stuck, essentially.
Yeah, so that the design of it was, sort of whatever. And then the whole thing, Elik is right, all you've done is get people injured or killed, basically. So, but it's still interesting. We had the Dynatrope, which is a good name. It didn't really mean anything. I kept wondering, it's like, all right, so what is this Dynatrope? It's like, I guess it's just their ship or the machine or something. So all right, it worked out. But I did like the explanation, because going into part 4, I was thinking, like, so what are they? What is the whole thing? What are they doing here? Why do they need the mental power and stuff? Like, we haven't gotten that yet. But it is a very good explanation, that it's like, okay, they've just been looking for 2 people to replace the 2 other Krotons, and no one has ever been smart enough until you get to, this, super intelligent girl from, I think people said she is supposed to be from the 21st century. We're just not sure when. So, but I think that's what people said. I think because I kept bringing up, like, why is she reading a comic from 2000, So she is supposed to be closer to the 21st century. And then, obviously, the other brilliant mind being this, the Doctor. We don't know about the Time Lord stuff yet, or Gallifrey. I think
that's got to be coming up pretty soon, though, doesn't it?
We have 3 more serials, I think. So I think it might be in the last serial. They might bring up the Time Lords and stuff. So whether or not though they will reference Gallifrey will still yet to be seen. They might bring in the Time Lords, but not Gallifrey. So I don't know. I have no idea. So and then we had the acid. It still begs the question, why did the Doctor have so much of it made? Maybe he just, had him make so much, because he had his own that he made. Maybe he had, what was it, Beta? Yeah, maybe he had him make so much of it so that he would start to learn chemistry and then could go from there. Like, maybe it was some sort of teaching tool for him. But at the very least, I mean, they did use it to rip apart the Foundation and stuff, so it was something.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, good episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up is The Seeds of Death.
Okay.
It's very ominous.
Is this a 6-parter or 8-parter or what?
I think it should be 6. Yes. So The Seeds of Death is a 6-parter. Obviously, we will split it up 3 and 3. And then after that, we will have our final recon episode. Which apparently... So, it's not on Amazon. It's not on where we watch these, which means we're not going to have subtitles for it. I think it's called The Space Pirates, and it's got 1 complete episode. But I was curious, because I did look on here, and here on Amazon BritBox, it goes straight from The Seeds of Death to the War Games, and just doesn't have the Space Pirates. And I asked people on Twitter, I was like, oh, how come they don't have that? And apparently, there are no stills or anything. It's just the audio and maybe like 1 or 2 things. So I think we might be in for the roughest of all the recons. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be very visual heavy. It's also not going to have subtitles.
Well, I mean, when we were reviewing some of the audiobooks and things like that, that was kind of difficult.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, the only thing though is that I think the difference though is that they try to make those episodes a bit more exciting. Like the recons, they're always a dull episode we don't have, you know? They're always a dull episode or something where it's like maybe this could be exciting if it wasn't a recon, you know? Yeah. So, but at least like with the audio dramas we listened to, they were somewhat exciting because they were made to be audio specifically. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Next time is Seeds of Death. So, yeah. Got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right, then. So, with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go check out any of those. There's a Doctor Who Classic playlist. There's a Doctor Who Modern playlist, which I have completely caught up to now if you want to go watch all 168 episodes of that. There's a subscribe button and a Patreon button, as well as links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys next time.